No hoodie,
Nah, I took it off. Maybe it'll go back on.
wizard mode slightly deactivated.
Slightly deactivated. Coming down to earth a little bit.
Respect. I just pulled up your tweet, and this is the one I was searching for. It's so funny that it happened in the interim. It's you, let me find it. It's you, a video, it looks like at your finance internship at a giant corporation. And
Wow.
the tweet says, in the winter of 2022, I worked as a finance intern at a giant corporation. Because there were thousands of employees and I was at the bottom, I felt I had no purpose. My work felt meaningless. I lacked motivation, and thus I lacked flow. But fast forward to today, I left school to become an entrepreneur. Now my entire livelihood and daily life are directly under my control. Sure, this comes with added pressure, but it also comes with unmatched meaning and autonomy. My motivation to improve myself has never been higher. This was May 30th, 2023 when you posted this. But this is what I
Oh,
was
wow. So like 2 years ago almost.
almost, yeah. This is what I wanted to start off because your story is so unique in that you had this very direct inflection point between kind of the matrix and the whole system to where you were like, no, I'm carving my own path from here. So I was curious to get your story and your take on what happened in the years leading up to that point, and then
Yeah.
the feelings around that moment where
Yeah.
you're like, screw it, I'm sending it, betting on myself.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you going back and doing that research and pulling that out. And it's interesting to hear where my head was at 2 years ago, because I was
Hmm.
like kind of on the right track. Like my life is flow, I have more meaning. But the part in there that I would now be like, I don't necessarily agree with that is like, I've never been more motivated to improve myself because now
Mm.
it's more of a realization there's nothing to improve. So it's interesting to see how that changes. But it looks like there was this inflection point on the surface of left college, full-time entrepreneur. But in reality, behind the scenes, it was a slow buildup of working on myself and discovering new things for a long time. Probably
Hmm.
from the onset of when I began to, we'll just call it work on myself, which was probably right around that finance internship. So 2022 or 2021. That's crazy. Yeah. Up from there until I left college was still another 15 months.
Hmm.
So there was a lot going on behind the scenes of like just journaling to myself, meditate, like starting to meditate, starting to read. I would, a big thing, I would start to smoke weed or I was microdosing mushrooms and I would walk around campus. And that was the first time I actually ever felt present and just at
Mm.
peace because now I wasn't a football player. I could just enjoy life. But then I started itching for something new to pursue. And that's where writing came into it. And then writing led to ghostwriting and then that led to leaving college. And then from there, it's a lot has changed too. But I'll stop it
Hmm.
there for now.
Yeah, what was it about smoking weed and microdosing mushrooms that allowed you to feel present for the first time? You said it because it was you weren't a football player.
Yeah, like even you could see it with what I'm wearing now. It's all kind of interesting and symbolic. Like I think that there's this desire within every very rational, cookie cutter, clean cut Western man to be more of a free spirited hippie. And there was that polarity within me, but I never found it until I stopped playing football. And then I was like, oh, I can just wake up and smoke weed now. Like, this is pretty cool. And just because I didn't have this pressure now, plus the weed to me and mushrooms, of course, they expand your consciousness, they open your mind. That's why hippies become open-minded because they're smoking weed. They're probably very correlated. So I just felt more open to life, more present and more at peace because I didn't have to try to prove myself every day in the arena of football. And I could just
Hmm.
find, I always had this desire to be a normal kid and just go to school and not have to like play all these sports. So I got to experience that. And even that pattern has repeated itself. It's like, okay, I became the entrepreneur creator, but then I had a part of me that desired to just be a free-flowing hippie backpacker who was nobody. And that was really freeing too. Where I'm coming to now is like, what's the full integration of those
Hmm.
two sides of myself, which are actually just different expressions of me?
Mm. Yeah, it sounds like your identity was opened up to what could be and what really interested you. And it's interesting because it's come full circle and now you're back at school playing football again, which is one of the coolest things I've ever seen any human being do,
Thank you.
particularly after going into the jungle. Tell me how you made it back to where you are now, because that's
Yeah,
just a whole trip.
something's coming to my mind. My friend Taylon Simmons, who I went to the jungle with, he'd always be like, dude, you're the first person ever to go to the jungle to do ayahuasca and go back to college. But it's funny because it was those first psychedelic trips that opened me so much to the possibilities of leaving college. And
Hmm.
then eventually, like because ayahuasca went so deep that I zoomed out to literally 50, 100 years from now, like what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be?
Mm.
It gave me some grace and peace to say I can be 23 and just play football and enjoy it for now. And I don't have to attach any pressure to it. And we haven't had our season yet. We just had spring practices. We just finished school Friday. So summer's just starting for me, but I had the best practice stretches of my life by not thinking about football that much until I was on the field, which was
Yeah.
it's a really important lesson that I'm learning for every area of life. Like reality transurfing talks about this principle of importance. When we put something as more important than another thing, it creates all this excess potential that manifests as a counterbalancing negative force that oftentimes things go wrong. Like if your whole life is in your business, the forces of the universe to balance you out will often bring forth negative events to bring you back into balance. So from that same place, it's like when I would put
Mm.
all this excess importance on football, like in college especially, and we can get into pendulums and all the stuff if you want to, but there was so much excessive importance on it for my self-worth and for my livelihood that
Mm.
it created all this excess negative potential with which then manifested as a bunch of injuries and a
Mm.
bunch of mental health issues and everything else that was happening.
I'm sure that manifests a lot with a lot of athletes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's like a big, I think that could be a big unlock in the future. But what's it like playing quarterback now? You said you had the best stretch of practices ever, but what's it more specifically like? Are you just so, I remember we were on our retreat that you hosted and you were like, I'm curious what it'll be like to be a psychic playing quarterback. And it's like,
Dude,
I
you're
know this guy's
exposing
gonna
me.
go.
You're exposing me. That's my secret. No. Um, I mean that's been part of it. Like
Yeah.
feeling intuitively like we're taught to read the defense, right? Like how many safeties are there? Are they playing man? Are they playing zone? And that's a part of it.
Yeah.
But I'll look to the right side of the field. I don't see any sign. I look to the left side of the field. A bird flies over the left side of the field. I'm like, I'm going left. And it was working because I was trusting it. Like
Mm,
whether or not it's real doesn't matter. It's because I was trusting it and I believed it was true that it manifested being true. So that's
that's so
been part of it.
powerful. Interesting. And how do your teammates like how do they interact with you in this state? Because it's probably so unfamiliar for them to see somebody at this level of consciousness.
Yeah, I think of it more as how have I learned to interact with them
Hmm.
because I'm not going to go into the weight room and just start talking about all this stuff. Sometimes I'll throw a little astrology comment in there. Or
Hmm.
like I have a teammate that'll ask like they're like, "What's that thing you talked about like the map of consciousness? Like how can I learn more?" So I when that happens, it's fucking awesome. I love it. But for the
Yeah.
most part, it's been a real integration of being in the 3D world and just like being a normal college dude football player who can talk about all the normal college stuff and not have to be in the spiritual all the time. Of course,
Yeah.
it's
So
always there. Everything is spiritual, but yeah, being able to just exist in that normal state.
slightly deactivating the wizard mode a little bit, coming down to earth.
Yeah, I mean, it's always there.
Right.
Like, it's not like, I mean, sometimes I'll intentionally kind of ask to tune my intuitive abilities down because sometimes they can be too much. And I haven't, oh, I'm still learning how to integrate it because, like, for example, at a family Christmas, like somebody's stomach was hurting there and I felt it the whole time. And I
Mm.
didn't know how to shield and protect my energy and not absorb it. And same thing in the weight room, like if somebody's back's hurting or somebody's knees hurting, I'm feeling it in my own body. So
Wow.
that's been pretty wild. Um yeah, there was one time this was when I was like I got to be calculated in how I'm speaking because I start talking to one of my friends on the team and my left knee starts killing me. I'm like, "Bro, does your left knee hurt?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude, it hurts so bad." I'm like, "Oh shit." I'm like I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then I was
That's
like, "I
so
gotta
crazy.
chill."
This is bringing up when we were on the retreat and we were coming home from our hike and we went to the gas station and we walked in just to get some drinks or something to recharge. And we're walking to the cashier and we see up above this whole like
You see.
amusement park. I see
Yeah.
this whole amusement park of lottery tickets and scratch offs, but their colors are so vibrant and it sticks out to me. I'm sure especially so because I was still on mushrooms. But then I pointed it out to you and you like sat on it and you told me this story about Rocco, which I would love for you to share. And then you used, at least as far as I'm aware, your spirit guide something to make a decision on what tickets to get. So tell me the whole story. Tell me Rocco's story, and then tell me what you used to make the decision.
Great question. I've never shared this publicly. So Rocco is a friend. He's a
Hmm.
very intuitive, psychic type guy. And essentially, the story is he got an intuitive hit to enter a raffle where he bought a sweatshirt with the opportunity to win like a $60,000 car. And he won the $60,000 car. And when he told me about it, he just told me in the most monotone voice ever, just like it was something that just happened. And that's the key. That's the
Hmm.
key with all reality creation manifestation. It's like if there's the excess energy behind it or needing it or like, oh, this is what's going to save me, then it's like this push and pull of the universe. But if it's just from neutrality and you get the intuition of like, I think I'm supposed to do this, and then it just happens, it's just like, okay. So what happened with the lottery ticket was, and this is our differences kind of in nature, and it manifests in like your heavy interest in Bitcoin and my heavy interest in, we call it mysticism, and we definitely intersect for sure.
Hmm.
But I didn't even notice the lottery tickets at all. But when you pointed it out to me, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I was like, I ask, I'm like, should I do it? And I get a yes. And how does the yes manifest? Sometimes it's hard to say. It could be just like a click. I literally hear a click. I'll see something. Um, but what happened is I was scanning through the lottery tickets and I was tapping into each one's energy and it was like no, 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 boom, that one. And I was like, okay, how many? And then I rattled off the numbers in my mind. I was like, one, no, two, no, three. Yep, boom. And then I bought three. And then I waited a few days. I had some excess energy with it too. I was like, holy shit, is there going to be $100,000? Like, because I was in some financial troubles at that time too, which we could talk about the football in a second. Um, that's pretty funny. But what happened is a few days later, at like the last day of the retreat, I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna scratch this off. And the first card, nothing. The second card, nothing. I was like, oh fuck, like I don't know if this is gonna work. Third card, I won $50. And I was like, that's so interesting. Now I tried to cash in the
Hmm.
money. It didn't work. I still have the lottery ticket in my closet, actually, just as more of a reminder. It was
Yeah.
more of a symbolic reminder from my intuition and from my guides that they've got me. It wasn't about the $50. It was
Hmm.
trust us, we got you. Just keep following this path.
How did you, because I'm sure most people are like, well, where are these spirit guides coming from? But like, how do you tap into these guides, these angels that you can kind of attune yourself to, ask questions to, and let them direct and guide you through the universe. So how did you, I know a little bit of the story, but how did you start to tap into them for yourself?
Yeah, it started just by asking from complete openness.
Hmm.
Like, are you here? And it started from reading a passage in a book called The Golden Age, How to Reach the Fifth Dimension, I think it's called, by Diana Cooper. And that first page of the book, if you actually approach it with an open mind and are open enough to trying out this, you will receive an answer, I believe. And she talks about when you come to Earth, when you incarnate into Earth, you come with a spirit team of helpers. And so you have a guardian angel. Now, what is a guardian angel? Is it an actual angel? Is it some specific frequency or vibration of reality that you can tune into? Are those the same thing? That's kind of what I've been exploring recently, like within my own mind. Like, is it an actual angel? Is it an actual demon? Or is it just a certain frequency that
Hmm.
one is going to continue to guide me on the path to my highest frequency, and another is trying to lower my vibration? So, what happened in the jungle? It was like the sixth or seventh day, and some weird things were starting to already happen with animals. Um, I haven't shared this. There's even hesitancy around sharing this for whatever reason because it's so wild. But what happened was around the fourth or fifth day, I went down to the lake and there was a bunch of like butterfly moths there, all circling around like crazy on the rock I was sitting at, usually. There's like 20 of them. And I just tried something. I don't know why. I just tried to like I put my hand out and I like put it down and they all sat down on the rock. I was like, what the fuck's going on here? And then I was like, this must be coincidence. And then I swam down to the other end of the river and there was another group of them flying around and I tried it again and it happened again. And so that was like, okay, there's something weird happening here. I had never accessed or seen anything like that before. So I was becoming more and more open and I was so desensitized out there because I had gone off coffee, off nicotine, off social media, off any type of stimulation. I was just basically sitting in the jungle for 10 days. I wasn't even writing. I was just like processing and integrating. And so around the seventh day, I don't know why, I just felt called to open this book by Diana Cooper on my Kindle. And that first page said, like, you come here with a spirit team of guides and a guardian angel. And
Hmm.
but the key point in that book was they can only help you if you ask, or else it would contravene your free will. So in that moment, I was like, I'm 7 days deep in the jungle. I have nothing to do. Let me just ask. So I asked, like, Guardian Angel, are you here? Are you real? And boom, acorn falls on the roof at that exact moment. And from there, for the next 30 minutes to an hour, I just was in conversation, asking question and to receive an answer in the form of a tap. And so, I mean, that's continued till literally right now in this moment. There's certain things happening metaphysically.
What are you noticing right now that
I
is
love that you
occurring?
ask. When I'm saying something I'm supposed to be saying, sharing something that they want me to share, writing something that's good for the collective consciousness, white little floaters fly in my vision. So it's happened like throughout this conversation. I'm like, should I share this? And it's like, boom, comes up. It's like, okay, share it. And I want to clarify something here too. It's like whatever like psychic abilities these are, it's not me.
Mm-hmm.
It's beyond me and it's like tuning into the collective consciousness and it's nothing I am doing. It's just I'm noticing.
Would you say that it's a frequency?
What exactly?
Because you mentioned the word frequency, and I would posit that when you're in the jungle and you reach your hand out and the butterflies fly around you, it's because you're vibrating at a certain frequency.
Yes, that feels right.
And so is tapping into these spirit guides tapping into a frequency.
I think so. I think so.
And
And
then
and the question is why? Like why can I tap into the frequency? I think there's some, I
because
mean,
you're God.
yeah, and so are you,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
But we all come here with unique karma. We all come here with unique past lives. We all come here with a specific cosmic blueprint and mission. And we
Mhm.
all come here with a specific energetic signature, which is also can be read in your astrology chart. So I think that can explain some of it. Like I've looked at my astrology chart and yeah, it for whatever reason, I am open to the spiritual planes.
Mhm. And you can see that in your astrological charts.
Yes, specifically in the shape of the chart.
Hmm.
So every chart has a shape to it. And I screenshotted mine and I asked ChatGPT, I'm like, what does this shape mean? Because I read people's charts all the time now. And like
Hmm.
a lot of people have little triangles. They're like very one-sided. And mine's like this rectangle. It's like perfect rectangle. I'm like, what's this mean? And they're like, oh, it's a mystic rectangle. It's like Carl Jung also had a mystic rectangle. And
Hmm.
even like I think maybe like Jimi Hendrix had a mystic rectangle or something interesting. But I would love to go deeper into it, but I would assume that because the chart is balanced and goes across all domains, it allows me to perceive reality in a wide way. Could be true. I don't know for sure.
Yeah. And I'm curious with frequency because you have recently started offering like frequency guidance with people. What have you learned that's elevated your frequency? And then what do you get into as part of that guidance?
It's a good question. So there's like a practical reason or a practical answer to that of like how do you raise your frequency? It's like do the inner work, swap out your low vibrational foods and your music and your clothes and do things that get you into an elevated frequency. It's
Hmm.
pretty obvious that doing mushrooms with all your friends in on a hike with intentions and prayer, like that's a very high frequency activity that's going to open you up to probably a higher frequency than you experienced before, and then you have to integrate that. Even in a daily context, it's like you wake up and you put on like super hard rock music, that might bring your frequency down, but if you listen to like some Alexa Sunshine Rose or something like that, like it's going to elevate you. So that's part of it. So just like teaching the everything in the universe is frequency. Even just like drinking out of a plastic bottle versus
Yeah.
drinking out of this, it's all connected. So that's the practical stuff. And then the element where I come in is like the intuitive side or the astrological side or the cards, for example. Like and again, it's not like I am choosing the cards to pull. It's like I get an intuition or a sign that, okay, this card is coming up right now, and I show it to somebody, and it reveals something in their subconscious. So I'm almost acting as this mirror, and
Hmm.
and it's just beginning, but like to a channel for divine intuition, essentially.
Yeah. And how does that, this is something I really want to talk about with you because you talk about it a lot, and I think it's so profound and real, is the quantum field. How do you, if at all, before we dive any deeper, integrate the quantum into that frequency offering?
Hmm. It's again just understanding the fundamental nature of reality. Like
Hmm.
the quantum field can also just be described as God, and it can also just be described as reality. Like right now, we're quantumly entangled in some type of um, bioenergy field. Like we're connected in this moment in the quantum field. But in the quantum field, space and time don't exist. And so from that, we can gather that our higher self already exists in
Hmm.
a different timeline or parallel reality. And so we can imagine the state of that higher self in the now, which then manifests future higher frequency states. That's the
Yeah.
whole point of the quantum physics is like we're so programmed to think like once I get that job or once I get whatever it is, we'll be in a peaceful, calm, aligned, abundant, vital state. But the truth is that state now precedes the physical manifestation in what we perceive to be later. But there's no space and time from like a higher perspective.
Right. It's like that state, let's say your most disciplined self already exists in the infinite realm of possibilities, which is the quantum field. So it's not
Yes,
like you have to do something to then be disciplined. It's you just have to tap into that state, the identification of being disciplined and all the satisfaction and feelings, inner strength that comes with it. That's what
yes,
all of the people, Neville Goddard, Joe Dispenza, Christ, and all of them talk about.
exactly. And then it's coherence to that state because you get into a disciplined energy now. An
Hmm.
hour later, you're like, fuck it, should I just order McDonald's or whatever it is? And sometimes, like, fine, like if that's what your highest self wants, like have fun sometimes. But it's an adherence to that frequency when old negative thought programs come up. It's like, no, this is who I am.
How would you can give whatever example you want. How would you adhere to it? And then how do you know what your highest self wants?
Okay, I'll start with what your higher self wants. Your higher self doesn't actually want anything outside of yourself. It just wants an internal feeling. Like the money or the success or the house, like those are just illusions of what the internal state would feel like. Like you would assume, oh, I'll feel so at peace and just like every day will be beautiful if I'm living on a beach and I looking at the sunset and I have $1 million in my bank account. But the outside doesn't matter. Like you can find that state literally in the ghetto, or you can find it like being homeless on the street. I have a friend I'm gonna do a podcast with soon. This guy has gotten so tapped in the last few months. He's living out of his car and he's so free. He's like, bro, I found a loophole in the system. Like they can't tax me. He's like, I can live wherever I want. This is fucking awesome. So he's living at a higher vibrational state than the
Mm,
billionaire who hates his life. Now, okay, the second part of your question was how do you adhere to the state?
yeah.
The awareness to notice when you've fallen out of it.
Mm,
So the awareness of, okay, in my ideal state, what are my thoughts like? They're peaceful, they're calm, they're slow moving. I get trapped in my worldly responsibilities and now anxiety's coming up, all these worries are coming up. If you don't step back and notice it, then you're going to stay in that frequency. But if you can step back and notice it and then transcend it through awareness, and there's all these different things awareness, humility, humor, presence, coming back to the now. That's really the essence of it. That's the essence of adhering. Adhering to the state, the 80/20 of all of this is just presence.
hmm. And awareness. Yeah, present, awake awareness.
Yes.
Yeah,
And aware of what thoughts are happening in your head. Like
yeah,
you are not the think you're not the one thinking the thoughts. You're the one that's seeing the thoughts.
it's aware of it. Yeah. This reminds me of I'm a basketball coach now, and I remembered recently when I was in like sixth or seventh grade, I found this thing on the internet, and I haven't found it since. I wish I know the essence of it though, but it was essentially it was some deep down the rabbit hole of tapping into being a really good basketball player, some rabbit hole, and it was you would close your eyes, see a black dot in the center of the rim. You would see the ball go in, but you would also feel what it was like to just swish a basketball shot.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for like 30 minutes. I went to the gym and shot around that night, and I probably made like 70% of my shots. And so
Yes.
I told my kids now, like literally last week, I'm like, close your eyes. Like we get in the circle, I'm like, close your eyes.
This is so cool.
And I'm like, what does it feel like to make a shot? And they tell me, and I'm like, okay, download it within you, and that's what it's like to be a good shooter.
Dude,
And
you're a
then
spiritual teacher disguised as a basketball coach.
a closeted mystic,
Yeah.
as you've deemed, but it's like so real and true. And it's we were going through a shooting drill. This is why I brought it up, and we were just throwing up bricks. bricks, bricks, bricks. So I was like, okay. And people would get frustrated when they miss a shot. I'm like, first,
Hmm.
let's understand no basketball player ever has played throughout their career not missing a shot. Like that just doesn't exist. Nobody makes 100% of their shots. Let's get to that fundamental truth. Second, it's not wrong to miss a shot because they'll just beat themselves up. I'm like, well, then you're just going to play tense the whole time because you're shooting afraid to miss. So wash that out of the system first and then tap into the frequency of what it's like to be a good shooter, to have the confidence, the detachment, the feeling of swishing a shot. And then we
How
went
old
back
are
to the
how old
drill.
are these kids, by the way?
They're in seventh grade,
But they
which is
they
like a good
understand it,
age.
right? They
Yes,
understand it. Yeah.
it's a good age. And because they're not like so old, like a senior in high school might be, where they're so rigid and they've gone through so many things and it's like my way or the highway type of thing. They're more moldable, but they're not
Hmm.
like fourth graders where it's like, what's even going on? Like, let me just go play Mario Kart at home or something.
Uh-huh.
But I was curious because last podcast that we recorded with me, we talked a bunch about Jesus and Christ. And we both I grew up religious. I believe you did the same as well. But
A
I'm
bit.
curious, you said you were Lutheran, I believe.
Hmm.
So what's your journey with religion growing up, and then how has it kind of evolved into what it is now with your views on God, Christ, etc.?
Yeah, so I grew up Lutheran,
Hmm.
but it wasn't like pushed upon me. It was just like, okay, like we're gonna start going to Sunday school when you're 12, and then you're gonna get confirmed when you're like 14, and like I would light the candles in the church service and stuff, but it wasn't ever an awareness of God. It was like, or like a true felt embodied experience, or I was never taught that like God is within you. It was
Hmm.
never taught in the formal church. Now, I did start to like it a lot when I was like 13 or 14, but I mean, I think a lot of it was like, I think my ego took a lot of joy and pride in like being the star student because I like really cared for a bit and like the pastors like really liked me. Um, so that was more of it rather than like actually knowing God. And then I would say at like 16, 15, 16 in freshman biology class, we learned about evolution and I really got into it. I was like, this makes so much sense. And so I'm like, evolution has to be true. I don't really believe in God anymore. It's like, it doesn't make sense. And so from there, probably till I was like 21, so like 2 years ago, I didn't really think about it much. I was just
Mm.
completely just this is all that reality is. I'm just some guy, and I never thought about it that much deeper. So it wasn't until I would say my first experience of knowing God was during an LSD trip.
Mm.
And what preceded it was I was sitting outside on my balcony and I was listening to a Ram Dass podcast. And he explained this situation where there was a woman who was dying of cancer and he was being with her. And I believe that he gave her mushrooms, as Ram Dass might do. And she basically said, once she got to that open consciousness state of realizing her nature and the nature of the universe, she's like, and it gives me chills every time. She's like, I'm dying, but the universe is so beautiful. And for whatever reason, that just clicked in my head of like, oh, I am the universe, but the physical form will die. But this will
Yeah.
go on. And there was another book a friend gave to me in college called Conversations with God. That was a big opener at the start too. Like the one line from there that kind of clicked everything in more intellectually and then experientially is a completely different level. But intellectually, the guy wrote Neil Donald Walsh. He was writing something along the lines of like, you are the universe experiencing itself. And then that started to kind of click as well. But it was that LSD trip that made me feel it for the first time, I would say.
What was it in the LSD trip that made you feel it?
It was what Ram Dass said.
It was the mushrooms.
And the realization, like, I will also die, but
Yeah.
the true substance of me will never die.
Yeah, the spirit.
Hmm.
The How has your relationship with God evolved since then?
it's moved from the intellect to the heart.
Mm,
It's moved from the mind to actually bodily experience. Um, and even then, it was like there was still a big idea that God was something outside of me, but I I really do reside in a state of not always. I fall into fear and anxiety and stuff for sure, but for the most part, I'm tapped into the entire field. Like I am a aspect of the field, but the reason I can feel my football teammates' injuries is because my place of awareness is like in this collective consciousness,
mm.
which you can also call God.
What would you, because it takes a certain degree of openness and willingness to penetrate into the mystery of existence to get to this level. And
Yeah,
I would
I have an explanation.
go for it.
This is why I love astrology because it can explain so much at
That's
a
what I was,
frequency level.
yeah.
So there's Western astrology and there's Vedic astrology. And I've been getting
Uh-huh.
deeper into Vedic astrology because I think it's much more karmic and predictive and destiny oriented and accurate than Western because it accounts for the wobble of the earth. Western does not. However, I do believe Western, because it's based on the seasons, the equinoxes, I believe, it's much more psychological and archetypal. Um, and I can't explain more than that, but that's my understanding now. But what I can explain is in Western, I'm a Leo sun, and the symbol of Leo is strength and courage. So
Mhm.
it's the courage to go into the unknown. And then in Vedic, I have a decent amount of Scorpio energy. I'm Scorpio rising there, which kind of blew my mind to find out. But Scorpio is all about like the depths and the unseen. And I think my something like maybe past life was Scorpio as well. I could be off there. I think I'm actually right. No, past life in Vedic was Scorpio. So it's like that's my comfort zone, mastery of the unseen mystical world. My north node, it's called Rahu in Vedic, is Gemini. So it's more communication and speaking, which is why I think
Mm,
my soul's pushed me to share all this publicly. And it's happening right now.
literally, yeah.
Literally, this is the most I've shared by far, dude, on a podcast. Just I'm very grateful for your ability to be with the depth and have the curiosity to ask the questions.
Well, I think it goes the other way too, to have the openness to be willing to share. Because to me, it's like, as we talked about last podcast, the game is spiritual evolution, and you're spiritually evolving at such a rapid pace. I think it's such a grand opportunity for other people, no matter what age, to begin to tap in. Somebody that's like searching for something externally constantly, trying to find an internal state, can actually realize, the state already exists. It's within you, and you're able to tap into it. And to have the tools to be able to do that is like worth its weight in infinity, literally.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
yeah. And along that line, I had a question. What would you tell an 18-year-old, even yourself or somebody else, that is in their senior year of high school, but they don't know maybe what path to take after graduating?
It's simple. It's live your life, follow your curiosity, and have no fear.
Yeah.
That will
I would,
lead you to where you're supposed to go.
and I would even add, like, to have no fears, just like have complete trust, because fear is part of the human experience. And this is part of my learning is like fear and pain isn't wrong, but trusting that it's there for a reason, whatever frequency it is, pushing you somewhere,
Mhm.
guiding you somewhere. On the other side, what would your 85-year-old self tell you right now?
Chill the fuck out. Probably chill the fuck out, but also put your ducks in a row and like be responsible. It's this interesting paradox. Maybe that's
Mm,
not true. Well, I think chill the fuck out is definitely true, but be be careful of spiritual bypassing the material
mm.
world.
In what sense?
So I have gotten myself into, for the first time in my life, some like financial debt, right? Some
Hmm.
financial issues. And I've been residing so much in the state of everything's working out perfectly, trust the universe, which is very true and we should. But that mindset can sometimes subtly outsource responsibility to the universe or to God, which is another trap because again, like we talked about, like you are God.
Hmm.
There's no outsourcing responsibility to anything outside yourself. So there
Mm.
is responsibility on the spiritual path, and there is trust and faith.
Right. I do basically the same thing sometimes. I learned about this maybe like a month and a half ago. One of my core downloads from my sits with Aya was it's all perfect. And so I could just spiritually bypass so many things, which is, oh, okay, it's perfect anyways.
Yeah, it's
It's so,
perfect. I don't have to go pay this bill. It's just perfect.
right, like, but it's like I could sit on the couch and sure, like in some sense it would be perfect too, but if the game is spiritually evolving and experiencing God as itself, then there's kind of a responsibility of the self to go do that.
Yes. And like you could sit on the couch, and this is quoting Michael Norse, the Vedic astrologer. He's like, okay, you can either actualize your destiny, which is going to be like being in the world and having responsibilities and completing your mission, or you can just become manure for the universe. And like that's a pretty crazy way to put it, but like sitting on your couch and just like meditating in a state of God presence, maybe there's a time and place for that for sure. But to
Hmm.
have that be your entire existence, I think it's missing something.
Mm. What's it missing?
It's missing your cosmic mission. Why are
Hmm.
you here? Are you here to meditate in a cave for 80 years? Maybe
Maybe.
that's some people's path. It very much could be, but for you and I, who for whatever reason incarnated into the Western world as like as white dudes that are interested in business, we have a new Earth to build.
Yeah.
That's what we're building. Even we can't see it completely right now, but like what you're building is somehow a foundation for the new Earth, and I feel like that feels pretty true for you.
Yeah, that was reflected in me in my first ever astrology session. It was like
Really.
being able to, yeah, to craft a vision and a dream for humanity to push us into the new world that's new across the board, like
Mm-hmm.
politically, socially, academically, culturally, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was through communicating is the main way of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
so
we share, I believe, because you're born 2001,
2002, January.
2002. Okay.
Mm,
I believe we share Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And those are all the planets of like societal transformation, spiritual evolution, collective awakening. And it's in Aquarius.
hmm.
And we're going into the age of Aquarius. And I had this insight recently
Mm,
because I was looking at my aunt's birth chart and my dad's. Like, this is a completely different generation. Their Uranus and Neptune are like in Virgo. And I was like, that's interesting. So I'm asking chat, what does it mean? And it's like, you're probably somebody that's meant to like help reform the healthcare system. Whereas for our chart, it's like you're somebody that's meant to like bring humanity to collective awakening.
hmm.
So there's different times that you incarnate with different planets in certain place that impacts your unique mission. And we're so drawn to the huge ideas because it's literally like in our blueprint.
Which is so fascinating because it's just like 2 years ago, I didn't, if you asked me about astrology, I'd be like, all that woo-woo stuff, you can miss me with it. Like,
Yeah, me too.
like, okay, bro, horoscopes and all that. But then I started deducing it logically. I'm like, okay, because I had somebody that started to talk with me astrologically about things. I was like, okay, I have a degree of curiosity about it. Let me see what's here. And I deduced it logically from everything's energy, and energy impacts energy, interacts with energy. If the moon impacts Earth, right, with the tides, the microbiome, menstrual cycles, etc., that means other stars in the galaxy, in the solar system, are also impacting Earth and the forms of energy on Earth in certain ways. So that would mean that astrologically there's something there because
Hmm.
energy is impacting energy. So it's like, okay, I think it's real. And then it got to a point where before I left Jacksonville, I gave a Toastmaster of the Day like presentation where I titled it Universe hyphen a T instead of because I didn't go to university, I didn't go to college, but I titled it Universe a T to share all the things that I learned in my 4 years in Jacksonville. And one of them was soften your butthole, which is
What?
which I've which I shared, and people were like, there's no way you shared that, dude. I was like, yeah, it's real. And it was shared to me before I went into an ice bath. And it was like, well, you get so tense right before you do it, right? And your like butthole actually tenses up. So by softening it, you actually release tension in your body and you can just liberate yourself in that sense.
Yeah, I would say like that's just like opening the root chakra, but that's
Right.
another way to
Yeah.
say it for sure.
It was added in for shock effect too.
I can imagine.
But another one was astrology is real. And it was like I walked through that same stars are energy and energy's impacting energy. But to pivot back to Christ, because this is something that's really resonating for me right now, I'm curious, like your path specifically with Jesus and his essence and his mission on earth. What have you learned about that in the past however long?
Yeah, I mean, he's a fucking legend. Like this dude's courage, and I like bringing him down to earth
Mm.
and calling him this dude. See this?
Yeah.
Um, like I look at that, and that's where this tweet came from earlier today. It's like if you want to make people feel powerless, make them believe in a God outside of themselves. That came because I looked at that card and I was like, dude, my fucking man, I love you, bro. And I just thought of it like that, like I love you, bro. Not like, please save me.
Mm.
He's not gonna save you, but you can live in his image and strive to be as he was. Because the same thing within him that allowed him to become one with God is within us. And I mean, I told you about the movies on the last podcast, the Last Supper movies. And
Hmm.
I was in the movie theater. I smoked some weed. I was tripping like Loki. I was like tripping in the movie theater, listening to every word he said, not literally, but metaphysically.
Mm.
Like he's in front of all the rabbis, the entire city of Israel, standing up to them, and he says, like super esoterically and metaphysically, and they didn't know, they couldn't grasp it, they didn't know. He was so before his time. If he was here now, people would get it. He said, it's not I that speaks, but the Father who speaks through me. And so, what does he mean there? It's like his mission, his school, everything he was teaching, it was not for his own will, but for the will of God. And he was literally willing to sacrifice his own personal self for the will of what was best for God. And what better example to strive for than that?
Which I would posit that's what Christ is like the pure, utter will and intelligence of God. And he just, because we talked about in the last podcast, like for so long I had a distant relationship with even God, but Jesus particularly because it was like Lord and Savior, like come save me. But it's not that. It's just the Christ consciousness that he embodied, the image for him, the image that he shared for us to embody, to realize God fully. What because Lee St. John will say you don't need to like you don't necessarily need to read all these books. You can just love everything fully to tap into that level of Christ consciousness. Do you think it's any deeper than that to realize
Mm,
Christ.
I think he's probably right because that's all like Jesus was teaching was love.
Mm,
I find it helpful myself. It's everybody's individual. I like to read about him and read his words to try to find the energy that he was coming from.
100%. Yeah.
Because just the statement like love everything, what if you've never tapped into the frequency of love before? What if you don't know what that is? Then you're just going to start going people pleasing everybody. That's
Mm.
not love. But to try to embody the state that he was speaking from, to me, that provides a. It's like I could think of a few examples. Like you read biographies to find like the subtle ways that an entrepreneur or genius move through the world and then apply them to yourself. Same thing with the basketball player. You watch Michael Jordan shoot a turnaround jump shot and then you try to imitate it yourself. There's a level of imitation there. And
Yeah.
you could say like all imitation is inauthentic. Maybe that's true, but if you're trying to imitate somebody who had completely surrendered the personal self to God, then who are you imitating? You're imitating God.
Right.
So I think if you're going to imitate anybody, imitate Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, and Zoroaster and like the other saints and stuff.
Yeah. And it's even like, because it's one thing to watch Kobe Bryant hit a turnaround jump shot and be like, I'm gonna go do that. But I think it's more, as we talked about, the imitation is more like the internal state that they're in. Even when you read a biography of an entrepreneur, and it's like Elon Musk, for example, if that's what's calling to you, it's not that you just go out and start 10 businesses, it's actually you embody the state of his being such that you have the wherewithal, the ability, the drive, the whatever to do all of that, to put that all on your plate. And that's like the what all of the teachers teach. And
Hmm.
it's like at the furthest end, the Krishnas, the Jesuses, it's just imitating God. So
Hmm.
what is surrendering the personal will to God? What does that look like?
Yeah, it looks like, fuck, God, you're really going to make me do that? You really want me to do that? And then that's where free will comes into play. It's
Mm,
like a small example would be I'm laying in my bed, I'm meditating, I really want to go to sleep, and I get some intuitive download, like I've got to go pick up this book and read a certain page. Or I have to go pick up a book and there's going to be something waiting for me there. Or I'm laying down and I'm supposed to go write something down on the board, on the whiteboard. The personal self's like, oh, I just want to go to sleep. But that inner voice, that knowingness, it's like, okay, God, it's like you have to surrender to God's will. Another example, I've talked about this a little bit, is when I was in Hawaii for 12 days, I did like a solo retreat, basically. I was in Airbnb. It was nice. It wasn't like in the desert or anything.
mhm,
But there came a few times where I wanted to just sleep at night, but the Holy Spirit, or we could just call it spirit, was pushing me to stand up, go outside, get out of my bed, go stand up, go outside, stand in the middle of the street at like 1 a.m. And there was so much fear around that because there was like a deep programmed fear of the dark and just like
mm,
laziness to overcome. And once I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to listen. And listening, what does that actually mean? It's different for everybody, but for me, it was my guides telling me through taps and in inner conversation with them, and literally like taps or pokes on the back, like go, 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 go. And so finally, I was like, okay, fine, I'll go. And I go, and that might have been the strongest frequency of unconditional love I ever felt in my life.
mm,
Like standing out there under the stars and just like this, it's like that the feeling of being on MDMA, like your entire being gets encapsulated by love.
mm.
So that would be an example of surrendering to God.
Through these subtle signs and frequencies. Because even I think my astrology would say that I'm a pretty sensitive person, but when I actually ignore it, that's when I get into dissonance with God because
Mm-hmm.
I'll be doing something on my computer sometimes and I'll feel like a like an irk, like don't be doing this. Then if
Mm-hmm.
I stay with it, it just continues to build. But as soon as I go away from it, something else opens,
Mm-hmm.
which is so it's like,
Yeah, because the personal self's like, I have to do this.
right.
But God's like, no, you don't. Like, there's something bigger if you just step away for a few minutes.
And it's like continuing to surrender into it. And you wrote this banger of a thread on the map of consciousness, which was, I don't know how long it took me to read, but it was so divine. Like it was such a divine time spending reading that thread. What what was that process like writing the whole thread? Because you penetrated so far into each state, each level on the map of consciousness, and I would, yeah, you just explained it super well in the written form while using quotes and other people. I'm curious on one end, did you actually, while writing it, feel some of these lower states as you're writing these words and coming
Great
out of it?
question. Great question.
And then what was just the whole experience like?
Yeah, so well, first it was a good learning experience
Yeah.
because by writing that thread, I basically reread the entire book, Transcending the Levels of Consciousness, and then tried to articulate what each level of consciousness was and how to transcend it. So, since I've written that thread, like really the thread was for me, ultimately. I mean, it was good to put out to the world for sure, to have more people become aware, but I'm able to start to notice when I'm in a lower vibration state, like, oh, okay, there's apathy present, there's guilt present. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. Now I can transcend it through each level that I talked about on the chart. But it's interesting because for the most part, it felt like flow, but there was a bit of like, I've got to finish this. Like, there was
Hmm.
a bit of that, like, okay, I got to finish this. I mean, I was like drinking coffee and like ripping zins while I was writing the thread. So does that discredit it? I don't think so. I mean, something that my friend Cameron Hogan told me about David Hawkins was like when he was publishing his final books at the end of his life, he was like ripping Diet Cokes like the whole time. So that gave me some more peace. But it was more so the initial idea, the frequency of the initial idea was like, yeah, this should go out to the world. This is a good thing to write. But then the doing of it, like it can feel hard.
Yeah.
It could feel hard. So I don't know. Does that answer it?
Yeah. And it brought up a reminder for me that I think the truest, most authentic expressions, particularly in the written form, honestly, in any form, like even the words we saying are for ourselves. Like when I get into the highest frequency writing my book, I'm writing to myself, or
Mm-hmm.
even a newsletter, or speaking to myself, or writing a tweet. And then you get on the flip side of it, the best way to learn is to teach. And so in writing this whole thread, you taught yourself how to transcend into the map of consciousness, but then you spread it out into the world. But that's why
Mm-hmm.
you're like, it was kind of for me, I just happened to like press post.
Yeah. All the threads are like that recently. It's been fun. Like
Hmm.
one's going out tomorrow about the chakras and Kundalini. And so I had to go into each chakra of like, what does it mean? What's a healthy chakra? What's an unhealthy chakra? How does it manifest? What astrological sign and planet is correlated with each chakra? So I'm
Banger,
excited to put this thread out. It's like
banger.
it rounds out my understanding of what are the different energies, like the solar plexus. Solar plexus was a big one right now in this conversation. Like before we
Mm,
hopped on, I was feeling like some blockages there. And solar,
same, driving home from the gym.
really,
Yeah,
I mean, this is a big thing. Like the solar plexus is all about like confidence, authority, willpower, assertiveness. And we're having this conversation like, okay, there's a part of us, we're still like 23-year-old kids, right? So that's that little blockage. It's like, oh, should I really be talking about this? And I mean, it's
mm,
it's grounded in now. It's like completely fine now. But I noticed before we hopped on, the solar plexus was a little bit blocked, and I'm like, okay, why? And then in the thread, I'm talking about like the solar plexus is governed by the sun. It's like
Mm,
astrologically, it's the sun. And the sign for it is Leo, bold, courage, self expression. So just because it was hurting doesn't mean anything's bad. It's like something is to be transcended,
hmm
whatever it is, fear of judgment, fear of authenticity.
mm. That's crazy because literally, even I remember I make this left turn in my neighborhood every time. This is when I was feeling it. I was like, there's like something in the solar plexus. And
When
even
did
on a
it
grander,
start? What time?
it was probably 2:38-ish.
Yeah, mine started at probably like 2:30 around there. And I,
Yeah,
I had a feeling I wonder if this is mine or if this is Cole's or if probably both of ours.
I wonder.
Yeah. It's a co-created thing because
Right.
when we enter into a conversation, we think we're just communicating through the words, but every single energy center is interlinked, which is
Yeah.
why you have to be careful and like not careful, not out of fear, but like be mindful of other people's energy levels and different
Mhm.
energies because they can infuse yours.
Yeah. Mm.
But there's an element of like we're both 23, we're trying to do big things in the world. You're trying to write a book, I'm trying to build all these things. Our solar plexus is being activated.
And that's what I was kind of feeling was almost like a calling into the power of the solar plexus,
Yes.
like to tap into it because any chakra work that I've done through, my own research or with other people has either been root, heart, throat, third eye, or crown.
Hmm.
And there's a solar plexus, and what's the seventh one right below it?
Sacral.
The sacral. No involvement with either of those two, which is very interesting that I was starting to get intuitive hits on this particular chakra. So I
Hmm.
wonder what this
It's
thread that
coming
you're
online.
posting. Yeah.
That's what it is. It's coming online. Dude, my sacral's been coming online so crazy recently.
How does
And
that manifest?
I just want to text girls all day. I want to text girls, I want to create all day, and I want to build businesses all day.
That's what's up.
It's the drive. Like the sacral is
Mm.
Mars, so it's drive. And what would be I mean, it might be like Aries type energy. I'd have to look. See, this is why writing it is good. But with an active sacral, it's like that's where drive and energy and passion come from. And then the solar plexus is the confidence and authority.
To
And then
express the drive.
if those two are like really spinning correctly, you're going to be pretty powerful. Now,
Mm.
that power, if it's not manifested up to the spiritual dimension, which the heart and everything up is the spiritual, the solar plexus and everything down is the material. So there's a lot of really powerful people that probably have really stable root, sacral, and solar plexus, but the heart's turned off. The throat, maybe it's on. The third eye's not on. The crown's not on. But if you can get all of them in alignment, like you become you become a literal force of nature because you're literally you're literally living through the divine will of God.
And it's interesting because that's when I feel the most empowered is when I'll literally say that sometimes, like I'm a force of nature.
Hmm.
And it's just like abundantly powerful, but not in like an overpowering way. It's just like I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like you have the confidence and authority of God, really.
Yeah, and the key with the solar plexus is embodiment.
Mm,
And like you can't fake a solar plexus being spinning healthily. Like you could
mm,
say these affirmations and all these things, but the key thing is the feeling of it. The
right.
calm, confident embodiment of that I am nature.
Mm. I definitely wanted to talk about Michael Norris before we wrap up because well, actually, first, I saw a tweet from you earlier. It said, love everything, but have boundaries, something like that. What, what went into that? Like, what pushed you to send that to yourself?
To myself. That's funny. Um, yeah, loving everybody, that's a core tenet of Jesus's principles. Like it's in the
Hmm.
10 Commandments, love your neighbor. So love everybody, but don't let somebody take advantage of you. Don't let somebody steal your time or energy away out of a subtle feeling of feeling bad. Like, and the reason that came up is I have a friend here in college. She's fucking awesome. We're homies. Sometimes she'll send me a 15-minute voice note.
Mm,
There used to be a part of me that's like, I feel bad. I have to listen to it. And so I'm listening for 15 minutes in subtle resentment.
mm,
But true love would be like, okay, maybe I'll just skim it, or maybe it's just not feeling right to listen at all. And that's okay too. So, yeah, the frequency below that is love. But if even if I had to tell her directly, I'd be like, listen, like me taking 15 minutes to listen to your voice note is a lot for me. And it doesn't feel correct energetically,
hmm,
but I still love you. And then
mm.
if they're hurt, it's not yours. It's not your fault.
Right. It's not your inner work.
Yeah. What's coming up for you around that?
Nothing in particular. Did something flash
Well,
out to you?
no, I mean, like, is there an example, kind of like I gave, like with the boundaries, with obligation? Did anything come up?
Mm-mm. Did you sense anything?
Yeah, maybe it's me. I don't know. I was like, and it probably is. Like, I'm feeling my lower back is like super tight with that. It's like that
Hmm.
burden, that obligation.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't feel anything
That's
in
great.
particular.
Beautiful.
But back to Michael Norris because this dude is like such a trip of a character.
He
I
is.
saw your your tweet. I think it was last fall, and you said I just got off a call with a Vedic astrologer, and I think my entire life is changing direction or something.
Wow. Yeah.
And I hit you over DM, and I was like, "What? Like, tell me more. I'm interested in learning." And I hopped on a call, and this guy was like throwing out F bombs like with no
Yeah.
regard,
Yeah.
and he's just a whole trip. But what's been your experience like, and how has he? And really, he's just a channel for Vedic astrology.
Hmm.
How has that impacted your life? I know quarterbacking, or I'm pretty sure that quarterbacking
It was kind
slightly
of,
manifested from that.
yeah, it was kind of a tangent. His big thing was about me. His big thing for my chart was about Saturn.
Hmm.
Saturn is the planet of karma, of maturity, of responsibility. You could think of it as like the archetype of the father. Like if you're super irresponsible, super immature, the judgmental father is gonna make things difficult. But if you're responsible and you're mature and you're making wise, calculated decisions, the father's gonna give you that love. And so my Saturn in Vedic astrology is in Capricorn. You're a Capricorn, right?
Hmm.
So Capricorn's like very grounded, practical, disciplined, structured. When I got on the call with Michael Norris, I had just got back from backpacking Thailand for 3 months and I didn't have a job and I wasn't working and I was just like firing off crazy tweets from the hip. And he was like, I think you need to go back to college and like work a job in finance. And I was like, dude, fuck no. Like I went on a walk after that call and I was like, am I really supposed to do this? And what I came to is like you can't take, and I love Michael Norris, but you can't take anybody's advice. You can listen to their opinion and maybe try to find a truth or a thread in what they're saying, but the like you
Hmm.
should go work in finance, that's it's a projection of his worldview, and I don't mean that in a demeaning way.
Yeah.
But in his worldview, a wise move from Saturn and Capricorn is to be in the material world and be in a steady career. I mean, the first thing he said to me was like, "You need to get a job," and I was like, "Bro, what? I'm not working a job." Um, but it's manifested in only the past week of I have a job again now, and I haven't had a job in a long time. And my root chakra is finally feeling stable because I've been so open up top, but my root has been really unstable.
Mm,
Like even at the breath work we did with Rocco at the retreat, I had so much pain in my root chakra because I just
mm,
wasn't stable. I wasn't grounded. And I was fueled by anxiety. So he gave me a perspective of more calculation and more stability and how that's actually good. Because my spiritual self like didn't want to look at that. Didn't want to look at the material.
mm.
And then when I came back to college, the last thing he was like, because I had another call with him, he's like,
Yeah. Really
Saturn's
nice.
really happy with you. I was like, okay, like that language is starting to make more sense now.
Mm. How are you how are you continuing to share tarot and astrology? Because you have take me through like your whole digital universe because I find that to be fascinating. One, in the
Yeah.
general sense of like the essence of what that means, and I think the beauty of it for anybody, but also specifically how you're crafting your own.
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't talked about this much either. So, the digital universe is like your entire ecosystem of your online presence. And it can even extend to the physical world. Like you have physical books, you have physical retreats, whatever it is.
Mhm.
But the idea is to just have this, like, imagine your own universe on the internet. You have a school, you have books, you have podcasts, you have content, you have courses, you have communities, you have everything. So that's the essence of the digital universe. You're omnipresent, you're across platforms. And mine is still in the making, but the digital universe game is a long-term game.
Mm,
It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not an overnight make money online scheme, although that could be the first step. And so one of the communities is actually for that. So I'll try to break it down how I see it at its current state with the side note that it's very open to iteration. So communities. There is a sovereign, this is all going to be launched this year. Sovereign creators community, low ticket community on school to help people start to build their creator business, personal brand, and make money online. The higher tier of that, transcendence. So much more into the metaphysical, much more into the quantum, really those people who want to take the next leap. So those are the communities, transcendence and sovereign creators. I have a cohort that I'm running right now called Conscious Creators, which might rerun, but I might want to put all my attention just into the evergreen community so I don't have to keep launching and stuff. But it's already built, the page is built, the content's built. So I could keep rerunning it. So that's kind of like the creator stuff. I
hmm.
also have like a free creator course and I have a free planning worksheet too that you can find. Now, in terms of the more metaphysical, spiritual stuff, there's that one on one frequency coaching program called Elevated Frequencies, which uses like the practical frequency stuff we talked about combined with the astrology, tarot, all the intuitive stuff. And then, of course, there's the YouTube, podcast, Twitter, newsletters. So, all of that content in the universe. And then there's more ideas of, what else can be added. And I'm working on some other moving pieces with um, retreat, like this Thailand retreat that's coming up. And then some other creative projects that I'm going to refrain from speaking about
Yeah,
yet.
because of
But
the observer effect.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, so I want to be patient with that, but that's the essence of the universe. And it seems like a lot, but my
Yeah, I
theory
love
behind
that.
all of it is build out your entire backend. Have all different containers for people to come into, whether it's community, school, courses, retreats, books, podcasts. Build out the container. Then all you have to do is go create and attract people, and then the container is ready for them to play in.
Which is so brilliant. I think that's the modern day framework. And I think that framework is part of the new age of like that's how value that's probably where most of the value because we're entering in such an age of abundance on the more lower levels of the hierarchical pyramid, that those needs are mostly taken care of. And that value is kind of provided for us and to us via just the pure abundance that we're unlocking. But the value, the more like personal, esoteric, heart-led, heart-centric, that's unique to you and your cosmic mission, that's where the value is going to stem from. And so I just think it's brilliant that you're doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a long, maybe it won't be that long. We'll see. I mean, it's almost already all there. Iterations will
Hmm.
happen for sure, but I never thought about it until now with how you described it of like within my universe, it's basically a path to self-actualization on the Maslow's pyramid because the lowest level, sovereign creators community, come in there for $49 a month, learn how to make money online. Cool, you solve that. Now what's next? Transcendence. Literally, it's in the name, transcendence. So that's actually pretty interesting. I never thought about it like that.
Like relating the actual Maslow pyramid to your own product offering.
Yeah. And even like it ties into 5 levels of awareness in marketing. Like
Mm,
that's literally Maslow's hierarchy too.
yeah. One, two, three, four, five.
Yeah. See, I do, it's funny. I like talking about the business plays and the strategy and stuff.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a video game.
100%. Couldn't agree more. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. I really enjoyed chatting as always.
Yeah, man,
You
this was probably the most fun podcast I've ever been on.
that's
You were
awesome.
really great at asking questions.
I appreciate that.
And
Wow.
dude,
Thank you.
this is when you know we're tapped into the Tao or like the universe. Right when you said that, sun started shining.
Mm,
And I'm about to go on a walk with a friend.
amazing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect
Divine.
timing.
Alrighty, I will stop recording. Where can the people find you first?
Twitter is my main place. X Jack Moses
Hmm.
Zero. It's Jack Moses Zero everywhere. And then, yeah, if you want a one-on-one reading, go to my website. You can find the different calls. I have a digital universe architecture call to help you map out your digital universe. I have a reading, a frequency reading, I'm calling it, which will use astrology, tarot, and all that. And then, yeah, elevated frequencies for the one-on-one. And most honestly, maybe most priority is Thailand retreat this
Mm.
summer, June 19th to June 30th in northern Thailand. It's only 750 bucks right now, and
You.
there's already 7 people that are signed up. So it's going
Amazing.
to be a really great group and it's going to be magical.
Yeah, I would second that magic. If anyone's made it to this point and you're curious about going to the Thailand retreat, surrender to God and go.
Thank you so much.
It'll be so worth it. But thanks for hopping on the pod, Jack. A
Thank you
blessing,
so much, dude.
pleasure as always.
It's so fun. Thank you.